Your client comes to a session frustrated about a conflict at work. Someone said something, they reacted, and now they're replaying it in their head. You listen, you explore, and then you remember 2 months ago, a different conflict, different person, but the same frustrated reaction. 3 months before that, another situation entirely. And there it is again, that same pattern running like clockwork. Here's the thing. You're starting to see something your client can't see yet. That's what we're exploring in this video. How to help clients recognize patterns of behavior, thinking, and emotion that shape their lives and limit their choices. This is one of the unique gifts of an ongoing coaching relationship. You get to see what clients can't see when they're stuck in isolated moments. Last week's frustration, the conflict from 2 months ago, that defensive reaction from 3 months before that. In the moment, each one feels unique. But from where you're standing, you can see the thread connecting them all. The client experiences these as separate events. You experience them as a pattern unfolding over time. And that perspective, that ability to connect what they can't connect, is incredibly valuable. It's not about being smarter than your client. It's about having the vantage point to see across time. ICF puts it this way: we help the client identify factors that influence current and future patterns of behavior, thinking, or emotion. Notice the breadth of that marker. It's not just behavior. It's thinking patterns too, how they interpret situations, what assumptions they make. And it's emotion patterns, what triggers them, how they react, what feelings keep showing up again and again. Our role is helping clients gain perspective on these recurring patterns and understand what's driving them, not to diagnose them, not to fix them, but to make the invisible visible so they can choose what to do about it. So what kinds of patterns are we looking for? ICF names 3 areas and they're interconnected. Behavior patterns are what your client does repeatedly, the actions and reactions that show up consistently. Maybe they always volunteer for extra projects when they're already overwhelmed. Maybe they shut down in conflict instead of speaking up. Thinking patterns are how they process situations, the assumptions they make, the beliefs that filter their experience. The client who interprets every piece of feedback as criticism. The leader who assumes their team can't handle difficult information. And emotion patterns are those predictable triggers and responses, the way certain situations always produce the same emotional reaction. Your ongoing relationship gives you a window into all 3. Now, here's where we need to be really clear about something. Coaching is not therapy. When we explore patterns, we're not excavating wounds. We're not going deep into childhood origins to heal old trauma. That's important therapeutic work, but it's not our work. What we're doing is helping clients understand the function of their patterns so they can create choice. There's a difference between asking, where did this come from, to heal, and asking, where did this come from, to gain perspective. We're doing the second one. Questions like, when did this pattern first emerge? Or, how long have you been responding this way? These give your client valuable context. Not so they can blame their past, but so they can see they have a choice about their future. Let me give you the questions that do this work well. First, establish the timeline. Let's look back together and explore when this type of thinking or behavior started and how long you've been operating this way. That's powerful because it creates distance. The client can see the pattern from outside instead of being trapped inside it. Then you create possibility. What would need to change for you to break from this pattern you've been in for the past 5 years? You see what happens there? Once they can see the timeline, they can start imagining something different. Gaining perspective on the pattern creates the space for choice to emerge. That's the real work. Here's something that will change how you think about patterns. Many of them started as survival strategies. At some point, that defensive reaction or that avoidant behavior, it worked. It protected your client. It got them through a difficult situation. I worked with a client who responded to any criticism with fierce defensiveness. When we explored it, we discovered that early in her career, defending herself was literally necessary for survival in a hostile work environment. The pattern made complete sense when it started. It just doesn't serve her anymore. That's the critical question. Does this pattern still serve you in your current life and circumstances? Often the answer is no. But the pattern has become so habitual that clients don't even realize they have a choice. Helping them see that choice, that's where transformation begins. Let me name the mistakes I see coaches make with this work. First, going too deep. When we start diving into childhood origins or trauma, we've crossed into therapy. Stay curious about function, not wounds. Ask about the pattern, not the pain. Second, only looking at negative patterns. Patterns aren't always problems. Sometimes they're strengths that have been overused. The client whose reliability has become rigidity. The leader whose decisiveness has become steamrolling. Look for limiting patterns and empowering patterns that need recalibrating. Third, telling instead of discovering. Resist the urge to announce, I see your pattern. Ask powerful questions that help them discover it themselves. The insight has to be theirs if it's going to stick. So here's what I want you to take with you. Your ongoing coaching relationship gives you something precious. The gift of perspective across time. You see what clients cannot see when they're caught in isolated moments. The work is a three-part process. Help them see the pattern clearly. Help them understand where it originated and what purpose it served. And help them recognize they have a choice moving forward. Remember the distinction. Coaching explores patterns to create choice. Therapy excavates patterns to heal. Stay on the coaching side of that line. Once the pattern becomes visible and the choice is recognized, the real work begins, designing a new future. That's where we're headed next.